So we'll end with this. Now, I don't know if I'm supposed to say trigger warning, but I am going to tell a story about incest. But the good news, it's about a misunderstanding about incest. There wasn't actually any incest, but I'm going to... Should we be concerned? Like, I just would like to keep going. That there is a woman meowing like she's in heat. I assume there's people upstairs that can help. If it's the ghost of the fucking guidance counselor who's like, I was never real, and I'm in the wall screaming. She's like, I can't believe smoking's not allowed in here. I'll end on this beautiful story, as Christmas is coming up in a couple weeks. I just want to listen and see what she's going to say next. I mean, I have to end the show. It's weird when you can't tell if they're happy or sad. All right, let's just keep going. Hope she's doing okay. So that last Christmas where my mom was questioning religion, I was kind of like all upset because I really hate Trump, as we discussed. And my dad, unfortunately, voted for Trump. But I said to my dad, if you ever talk to me about Trump, I will never talk to you again. I don't want to hear about him. I don't want Fox News on anywhere I come visit. And my dad snuck Fox News on for a second, and I see Trump, he's blah, 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 whatever he's doing, and Melania's in the background. There's like black Christmas trees, and they're bleeding, and she's like, Christmas is terrible, you know. And I was just like, and my dad's smiling like he's in love with Trump, and I was just like, oh, God, you know. And I go, turn that off. And he's like, just wait a minute, I want to see what he's saying. I go, I told you I'd never talk to you again. I'm getting all serious, like using my theater voice. I'm like, turn that off. He's a terrible man. My dad turns around, and my dad just started getting church giggles, I guess, because I was so angry. And he was just like, and I was like, stop laughing at me. But he really wasn't. But then he couldn't stop. And I was like, stop it. And then my mother comes in, what is all the yelling? And then my sisters come in, and I'm like, Dad's a horrible person. And I'm just like, turn that off. And then I point at him, and I go, you're triggering me. And then I run upstairs and start crying. And now, my mom, as I said, she's getting a little more open-minded as she gets older. She's reading things, and she was reading about the word triggered just before I said those words, you know? And she'd been reading very specifically about the concept of like a trigger warning. If you're going to talk about sexual assault or something, you might say trigger warning before you read this or whatever. And so in her mind, triggered was a word specifically only for victims of sexual assault. And that if you said to someone, you're triggering me, that must mean that person had molested you. So I don't know if she thinks this. I'm saying triggered because it's just a word. I meant you're pissing me off. I don't know. So I go upstairs, I'm crying. Now I'm crying, I don't know why, I'm just in a bad mood. But I think I'm crying for all the years of everything, like Trump. Everything I hadn't really let loose. And then once you start crying and it feels real good, you keep crying. And then I'm just like, I hate my outfit. You know, it just became stupid. So my mom comes upstairs, knocks on the door. Jennifer, what are you doing in there? I'm giving speeches to Congress, mother. No. So she comes in and she's like, are you okay? And I go, yeah, I just can't stop crying. I'll stop in a minute. And she goes, okay. Well, let me tell you this first. She holds my hand and she goes, your father is my soulmate. We're high school sweethearts. We've been married over 60 years. We have 3 beautiful children. And he's the love of my life. I don't know what I'd do without him. But if he did that to you, I'll kill him with a knife. And I go, if he did what to me? And she goes, I believe women. I go, I don't know what you're saying. She goes, you triggered. I go, yeah. And she goes, I know what that means. I go, I don't. What are you... She goes, I go, no, you think Dad, like, did something? No. And she goes, well, why did you say triggered? I go, because I'm angry, I'm pissed off. And she goes, triggered? is a very specific word to be used by victims of sexual assault. And you can't just go willy-nilly yelling triggered like it's the newest buzzword. It has a meaning, Jennifer. Use your words. Say something like, you upset me, I'm angry, but you don't say you're triggered. That is a special word. I go, okay, I didn't fucking know, sorry. And she's like, well, I am so glad nothing ever happened. I go, no. And she goes, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to go to prison now. And she starts crying. And she goes, your father's real upset. I go, oh, he is? And I go, all right, well, I didn't mean to yell at him. He's not a horrible person. I'll go downstairs and talk to him. She goes, yeah, just go down and say, you don't even have to say you're sorry, because it's okay to have political differences. But just go downstairs and just tell him you love him and that you're not going to talk about politics anymore. It is Christmas Eve, after all. I forgot to mention, this was Christmas Eve. And this is, what we were doing at 4 o'clock instead of going to church, is my mother was thinking my dad may have molested me and was planning his murder. And so, she goes, isn't it great not to be at the mass right now? And I'm like, weirdly, I think that would actually be more fun than being in this weird situation. So she goes, oh, by the way, when you talk to your father, you might want to let him off the hook. I go, what? She goes, well, just, tell him what you just told me, but what he didn't do. I go, what? Well, he asked me what triggered meant, and so I told him that was before when I thought it meant what it meant. And he's real confused and upset. Now, what you have to know is my dad hit his head 10 years ago. He's totally fine, but his brain did swell, and he had to have surgery. And it took a while to recover, because when your brain swells, when you're elderly, you lose your memory. So he's fine, but, definitely some memory loss. And so my mom goes, he's real confused. Go down and talk to him. So I'm like, okay, I will go downstairs and tell Dad he didn't molest me. Thanks. So my dad's stoking the fire, and I tap him on the shoulder, and I said, Dad, I'm really sorry. I don't want to argue about politics. The last thing I want is Donald Trump to ruin our fucking Christmas. And he goes, okay, Jen, I love you. And he went to hug me, but I think he felt awkward. And I was like, oh, by the way, you never molested me. And he goes, oh, geez, I didn't think so. But, I hit my head, and I get bad memory, And my sisters are looking like, what the fuck conversation is going? And we hug, and my mother goes, isn't this wonderful? Your father didn't molest Jennifer. Merry Christmas, everyone. Isn't it great we don't have to be at church right now? That freak show. Thank you guys so much for coming to my album taping. Oh, I love it. Good for you. I love a standing O. I deserve it. I love you. Thank you so much. This has been a thrill.